All right, all right. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening, Black Factor family. This is the Black Factor, and I'm Brian Forbes. And this is where perspective is everything. Because I got to give it to you like it really is. Now, don't forget, before we get started, let me make sure we don't forget to hit the like button, the share button. Don't forget to hit me on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, Periscope, Instagram, and any other platform you can think of. We on all of them. Hit us up. All right. My oh so smooth family out there. Don't forget to simulcast on Wednesday, 7 o'clock sharp, 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 sharp. Get on with me. Simulcast at the same time. Don't forget you can download that app at Apple iTunes or at the Play Store. Right quick before we roll off into this subject matter, because I'm going on a rant today, y'all. I think y'all like it when I rant more than when I'm having those good conversations. Val Wells, good evening, Val. It's good to see you. Thank you for checking in. I appreciate you. Yeah, I'm gonna go on a bit of a rant tonight because I'm feeling some kind of way, y'all. I ain't gonna lie. Politics got me feeling some kind of way right now. And I said I was going to stay away from politics most of the month of February because we were going to do all of the February Black History Month, even though we are Black History 365 days a year. I was going to stay away from it. But now it's time to get back into it, and we're going to talk about it. For those of you who joined me on Friday, we had a very interesting show. Unfortunately, we were riddled with technical difficulties, and that is my fault, but I will not let that happen again. And we will be bringing back some more subject matter dealing with the ladies, and I think that was a good thing, but we're gonna try that again coming up in the near future, so y'all stay tuned for that. Right quick, y'all, on birthdays. In 1930, a gentleman by the name of Raymond St. Jacques was born, and he was the very first black man to hold a regular role in a Western series, and that was Rawhide. His name was Blake in Rawhide. I don't know if y'all, how many of y'all, I don't know how old y'all are, but you know. Some of y'all might know. My man Alex is in the building. What's going on, Alex? Good to see you, my brother. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you for checking in. So like I was saying, y'all, I'm feeling some kind of way about everything that's going on right now. And so I'm gonna deal with some of that. There was a guy by the name of Voltaire. Some of you may have heard of him. You may have studied him. And he made a quote many, many, many years ago that applies to what we're watching happen in this country right now. And he said, those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities. And I fear that we are witnessing that very same thing happen because we have gotten to a place where we have an individual who was running this country that was very good at absurdity. His absurdities have reached and stretched in directions that are unbelievable to me, to be honest with you. I feel like I'm, somewhat in the twilight zone when I'm dealing with all of these things and the stuff that I'm watching. I don't know what happened. I don't know when it happened, but it's strange, y'all. Donald Trump basically greenlighted racism, sexism, white nationalism, and any kind of other ism you can probably imagine. And because of that, we are in a very, very bad place right now. And I say that because politically speaking, I've been feeling a little uneasy because I'm concerned about what the future holds. I was talking to a good friend of mine yesterday, and we were discussing the possibility, or we were talking about grandchildren. And I don't have any yet. And I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I'm not terribly upset by that. And I think the reason I'm not upset by that is because I look at the world that we're living in, and I really, really, it concerns me when I think about what our children are going to be inheriting, what our grandchildren are going to be inheriting. Teresa Morgan Riley is in the building. What's going on, cuz? I see you. Sherry Davis. Hey. And I've racked my brain. I have sat back and I've thought and I've pondered and I wondered. And I'm usually pretty good about predicting stuff that's going to happen, things that are coming up. I believe in having some insight about what people may or may not do or what the possibilities are based on the information that we have been provided. But I swear to y'all, I have racked my brain trying to figure out what's going on and where we're really headed in regard to this country. And I ain't gonna lie, I'm gonna actually do a whole show about this. I told y'all, I did a show about moving in the United States, but I'm gonna do a show about moving out of the country. It's just something to think about. It's an option. And here's why. We're currently going through, for those of you who may have or may not have read a book called Mein Kampf, and that is the book that describes the rise to power of Adolf Hitler. We're currently witnessing a very similar set of circumstances. It's almost like history is beginning to repeat itself. And what I don't get, and this is part of my trouble that I've been dealing with in that regard. I'm trying to understand what part of this game is it that people do not see or don't care about where this thing is headed. Now, if you're a white male in America, of course you don't care because it doesn't affect you. However, white folks in America, white men in particular, are the ones who are mostly perpetuating what appears to be problems to people like me and many of you, my Black Factor family. I mean, this is the Black Factor. But the only thing I can keep coming up with, the only conclusion that I keep reaching is that they absolutely are trying to make America great again. But what does great mean? Great to them is when they had the right to oppress other groups of people and to get rich off the oppression. I mean, let's face it. Every bit of legislation that has managed to keep black people oppressed and in the place that they want us in has benefited them financially. Unless, of course, they want to use us, which we know they'll do that to gain financially as well. It's historically factual. Now, I can't break down each and every time I say stuff like that, I really want to get into the history of it, and I really want to dig down and explain that position, because sometimes people don't quite understand some of the things that I'm saying. And I do get new listeners, new watchers all the time. And as they begin to trickle in and they don't know about some of the past shows and some of the things that we have covered as a family here, I encourage people to go back and go through some of the history of this show to pick up on some of the history of why I say some of the things that I do. But historically speaking, America has been built off the backs of black people. Now, of course, white men will disagree because that's what they do. And of course, they believe that by default, they're smarter than us. I think I told Dennis this just a little while ago. You know, it's strange that supremacy allows particular individuals to believe that because of them being who they automatically, some of them are quite dumb. But the silly part is that they think that because they're dumb, that by default of being white, that you're supposed to be dumber than them. See, that's the ignorance and the arrogance coupled together that allows them to believe that they are in a better position somehow. You know, it's gotten to the point where lies don't even matter to anybody anymore. And that bothers me. I think that bothers me more than a lot of other things. I'm really disturbed by the fact that Now, people just don't call anybody out, especially these people in power, about their lies anymore. It used to be a time where if they told a lie, okay, a little white lie would go a long way. But now the lies have become way more blatant and way more dangerous. And it's insane. I'm tripping on the whole thing. Dana Brock, my man, how you doing? It's good to see you. You haven't been on in a while, and I'm glad you're back. I know you were going through some things. Dana Brock says 2020 was foresight. Yes, it was. Get ready for 2022 and 2024. We went through reconstruction, and now we're headed for deconstruction of the USA. Listen. How they say 100. Yes, truth. I can facts. I'm gonna put all of them Facebook memes in there. What you just said. What you said. Because that's exactly where we're headed, to a deconstruction. We're experiencing a direct assault on anything and anyone that is not white. Now, under normal circumstances, and maybe a year or two ago, I wouldn't have even said that, because I'm not one for conspiracy theories. In fact, I hate conspiracy theories. But I'm at a point where the things that I'm about to say, I don't think they're a conspiracy. I think they're actually taking place. It's not some made up idea that I'm coming up with that I'm just pulling a rabbit out of my ass. That's just not. I'm looking at the writing on the wall. So what I'm realizing is that they want to return this country to what would appear to be a darker time for black folks, when they had the power, not only the power to oppress, not only the power to get what they want, to take what they want, to destroy who and what they want, but they were supported by the legal system. And when I say that, I want you to take clear focus on the Supreme Court right now. And look who's there and who put them there. When I think about our people and where we are in America, a question comes to mind. And I want to know, how many black people, how many of you can actually point out what state, city, or country on the African continent do your ancestors hail from? And I'll go you one better. How many of you actually know whether or not your family was enslaved or not? Were they indigenous to this country or not? See, we've had history erased for black folks in America. But if you pose this same question to the average white person, they can not only tell you where they came from, they can go all the way back for many, many, many generations and history, and they can tell you who did what, who created what, who and the whole nine. We cannot do that. We had a dark period in the life of black people that we still are not completely out of. Slavery is not black history. It is nothing more than a disruption of black history. It's nothing. It's no different than when ISIL, and the others in the Middle East went through areas of the Middle East, destroying relics of history, destroying things that would remind people of the past. We are what was destroyed by the people of this country, the colonizers. Our minds and our history was destroyed so that we would not know who we were, which is partly what I'm going to get to tonight. That's partially what this whole show is about. Now, I titled this show Fear Tactics in Politics and the Black Community. But in fact, this part does go with it. Part of our dark ages in America. Right now, we have already been experiencing. In fact, we've experienced this the whole time that we've been here. But in fact, we are about to experience levels of voter suppression that you have not seen since the destruction of Reconstruction. And like Dana Brock said, we are about to go through deconstruction. But I still warn those that will perpetrate these atrocities that short-sightedness will come back to kick you in the butt. It always does. And the fact that people will sit around and allow a liar, a known liar, to continue down the path that he has gone and remain in such a powerful position that people are worshiping at his feet. Please believe that will not come to any good end. Yes, it's going to probably hurt us, but it's going to hurt way more them than they think. But we'll see. I believe there are way more sinister plans afoot. See, this to me is appearing like the long con. There's something else going on. I've been thinking it. It's been in the back of my mind. But again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not one of those people who likes to operate from suggestion, stupidity, lack of facts. I like information. I like to have the information so that I'm clear about the statements that I make. And I rarely, and y'all know, if I make a statement and I state it as fact, you can best believe I did my homework. Now, I'll tell you if something is based on my opinion and my opinion only, rather than just what I think. Most conspiracy theorists operate out of wild ideas and suggestion. Kind of like how in 3 days, according to QAnon, there's supposed to be the reseating of Donald Trump, and there's supposed to be executions held on March 5th of particular individuals in government. That is what they believe. That is a conspiracy theory based on nonsense. But small minds, what are you going to do? And they believe they're brilliant. In fact, today, Dennis McCullum posed a question, and it dealt with the either or. Arrogance or ignorance. Which one drives these people? I contend that they are synonymous, because it appears that sometimes the most arrogant tend to be the most ignorant. So, of course, they go together. At least I believe so. But now, overall, one thing, y'all, and this is something that I have to point out. Donald Trump didn't create this. All he did was give license to this ignorance and hatred. He gave license to racism, to white nationalism, sexism. Today on the news, I saw where they were going all in on Andrew Cuomo about so-called sexual advances on young women that he were in his orbit. And I struggle when the very people who support a Donald Trump make these these hypocritical statements toward another individual that they don't care for. If you're gonna deal with these sorts of things the way they should be dealt with, women should have the right to protest any advance that they don't want. But I also think that if we're going to ostracize or demand retribution from a Cuomo, then we should also demand the same of what used to be the leader of the free world. What makes him better than anyone else? Nothing. The buzzword today is extremist. These are the words that are constantly being used against anyone that they don't like. extremist. Everybody is an extremist. They're far left. They're far right. They're far this is an extremist. But this is yet another. These are fear tactics. Fear tactics work. Which brings me to the real subject of this show, fear. Now, fear is a funny thing because it goes in a lot of different directions. And the question becomes, what is being feared and by whom? Well, right now, Joe Biden has picked a cabinet for his administration. There are particular individuals in these seats of power who have deliberately gone out of their way to deny him those individuals in those seats, claiming they are extremists. All of them? How are all of them extremists? The only extremists I've seen are Donald Trump supporters, because to support someone who lies, cheats, and does all of the things that he's done, bullies people, that's extreme. That's extreme by definition. They don't want to approve anybody in his cabinet. Now, this guy, Josh Hawley, the same one who was out there pumping his fist and going on about Donald Trump. Well, out of all of the picks that Joe Biden made to fill his cabinet, Josh Hawley has denied every single one. He has voted no on every single one of them. 13 of them, those 13, all people of color. No, 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 no. What does that mean? That means you got a problem with people of color. Not only do you have a problem with people of color, but you've labeled them extremists. So now, what does that say? That says that anybody of color who Joe Biden chooses to put into his cabinet is now an extremist. There's an application of rhetoric as though black folks haven't suffered enough. People of color in general haven't suffered enough from all of the labeling and name calling. But that's not good enough. They said they're not qualified. Excuse me, but Donald Trump was the king of unqualified placements within his cabinet. Do I need to go through the list? Betsy, I'll just say Betsy DeVos. Let's just use her right off the top. Secretary of Education. Knew absolutely nothing about that. The clown, Housing and Urban Development. What did he know about it? Oh, he lived in the projects. My bad. I should have known that. Yeah, okay. Donald Trump put unqualified people in every nook and cranny of his administration. People who were friends of his, people who paid lots of money and all sorts of other things, people who knew nothing about the jobs they were placed in, yet they were all approved. Nobody said a word. Nobody in Congress, nobody in the Senate. They just let it ride. But here now, all of a sudden, none of these doctors or professionals or people who've been in these fields for all of their life are qualified. And by the way, they're extremists. I am tired of the lies. I'm tired of the hypocrisy. I'm tired. Dennis McCullum said they want extremists accepted as normal. Yeah, on their side, but not on the side of rational individuals. But on their extreme, here's the killing part. Here's the part that I think annoys me the most. It's like, I know I am. I know you are, but what am I? I know you are, but what am I? It's like they got this thing where they claim other people are exactly what they are. Not what they are, but what they are. Like Donald Trump is a huge bully, but he'll go around saying he's been bullied and he's been treated the worst of anybody in American history in the presidency. Whew, come on, y'all. The bottom line is we're headed to the second coming of the Nazi Party if we're not very, very careful. I mean, let's face it. His supporters love the swastika, right? White nationalists, they love their swastika. They love their Confederate flags. All groups that have gone down in history on the wrong side. But these are the people who love him and his idea and the whole ideology of white supremacy, of white nationalism. They love this. So it's no wonder that we're headed down that path. Nobody gives a damn about the Constitution anymore. Donald Trump wants people to bow at his feet and kiss the ring. He is the king of what used to be the Republican Party. It's the future that we have to be concerned about. But here's the thing. The reason we're seeing such a rise, as though it wasn't already up there, a rise in the support for lying Donald, it's because the old white establishment is actually afraid. See, remember when I started this show, I talked about fear. Of whom, and of what? See, everybody has some fear. The question is, what is it? What does it apply to? To whom does it apply? And why? See, everybody has fears. They just different. And the fact is, the old white establishment is afraid. They are afraid because black people, people of color, have become highly educated according to their standards, which they worked diligently for over 100 years since freedom, since the Emancipation Proclamation, to keep from happening. But now the cat is out of the bag. See, when you can't control things one way, you have to find other ways. But the fact is, black folks have become a lot more educated, a lot wealthier, less afraid. We still have our fears, but not like that. Dennis McCullum says fear of a black planet. But check this out, Dennis. The fact is the planet is black. This is the thing. This shows you the misconceptions of what we are taught, particularly in America. The planet is already predominantly of color. White people are the global minority. That's a fact. Check it for yourself. But in 2032, it is projected that people of color will be the majority of the working class in America. Now we're getting down to it. By 2045, whites will be the minority in these United States. Did I mention fear? Do you think for 1 second that they are not going out of their way in 2021 to stop that from happening? See, this is where we're headed. This is where we're headed, and this is the reason why I'm explaining it this way. Because their fear is that they will lose their ability to have that perceived superiority. See, that's a propaganda campaign from the word go. That's all it's ever been. It was never real. It was only in their mind. They forced their superiority through violence, yet we've been labeled the violent ones. They forced that superiority, and now that they can no longer force it violently, not the way they used to. They still do it. They use their police departments now. That's just one way. But now that our knowledge has increased, and like I said, we've become more educated and less afraid, there has to be another way. The thing is, they can continue to scare their own kind into believing that if they don't do something, just like Donald Trump stood up on that podium and said, if you don't do something, you won't have a country. That's where I'm going with this whole conversation. Fear. He must scare them into believing that if they don't stop people of color, that they will no longer exist eventually. It's a propaganda campaign. Propaganda campaign of white superiority. And it began over 400 years ago. And it was then and is now, always has been, based on economics. It has everything to do with money. It has everything to do with finance. I can go down a laundry list of the reasons for oppressing black people, enslaving black people, and it would take me all night, but I have a complete list of how it benefited and still benefits the white establishment financially to keep black people in a particular place and mindset. Just like how we talk about redlining and all of that kind of stuff. We did a whole show on that once. See? And it's a shame. Another propaganda campaign. And if you want an example of what I mean by that, y'all know that when you want to get married, or you fellas, you want to marry your woman, there's become a time, and I think it's kind of fell off a little bit, and I'm glad it has, to be honest with you. But there was a time when they would say things like, if you want to show your girl how much you love her, you got to buy a big diamond ring. Or you have to save 2 months of your salary and buy a diamond ring. That kind of crap. That had nothing to do with love. It had nothing to do with any of that. It was an ad campaign, propaganda. And people bought into it. We bought into the Easter Bunny. We bought into Santa Claus. Every last one of them has to do with economics. Every last one of those propaganda campaigns is driven by the numbers. It is a form of brainwashing and a tool created to make people obey. Religion, the Bible, makes people obey. It gets people just as caught up because there are those who will use what's in it to get what they want. They have done it. They will continue to do it. I know that's probably an unpopular idea, but I am willing to question it, unlike many. But fear is what keeps people from exploring those ideas. Fear. Because you've been taught that your rewards come after you die. And you have to do all the right things like obey in your life so that you die and receive what appears to be riches. Streets paved with gold and pearly gates and all of that other stuff. Those are the trinkets of greed. The ideology is that of greed. And again, propaganda campaign bought into for the purpose of economics, once again. But one of the good things about black folks now is that we've become economically mobile. We're able to do things, have things that others wish they had. And now black folks can show their stuff off without worrying about somebody coming to burn it down or tear it up or take it away from them. And that's a slap in the face, because less than 50 years ago, you couldn't walk around. Man, maybe 50, maybe 60 years ago. You couldn't walk around showing off if you was black like that. Not without being treated some kind of way by somebody. It could be a poor white man, and you could be sitting there in your Cadillac, and they'll give you hell, the police, about riding around in that Cadillac because you think you something. You uppity. You a uppity nigga. See, that was the attitude. They still think it, but they can't say it, not without retribution. Now, because of Donald Trump, many are saying it all again. Why are they so angry? Why are you so mad, especially when you claim black folks don't work? Oh, get a job. Oh, welfare. Y'all get welfare. But if we have anything, that's a problem too. What is all that about? See, that's fear. That's what that is. And you have to try to find a way to shame somebody into apologizing for working hard. Isn't that something? Boy, I tell you. Work hard for your stuff, and they mad at you. Don't work hard for your stuff, and they mad at you. But the main thing is, we're no longer afraid. We're no longer worried about what you think you're going to do. What you're going to do is get yourself in trouble. But fear is the main ingredient that drives propaganda. It allows it to flourish. And as long as they keep pushing fear, they'll keep winning. Because you got to remember, black folks have been dehumanized for hundreds of years. We are the enemy. We are the ones who are the most violent, according to them. We're the ones who have, who don't work. You know, all of the dehumanization, all of the lies and anything else they can make up to make it just seem like, oh, no. Stay away from black people. There's something wrong with them. When all the while, I don't recall any black folks dragging any white folks, lynching any white folks, burning down their houses, burning down their churches, destroying whole towns. I don't recall any of that. I don't recall any black people making white folks step off the sidewalk when they walk by. I don't recall any black people kicking out any white folks when they moved into a certain neighborhood or wanting to burn their house down and tell them their kids they can't play there. I don't recall any of that. But we're the ones that's violent. There's something wrong with us, right? Okay. See, the fear is that black folks is waking up. So all I'm doing right now is I'm explaining to you why we're witnessing what we are in this changing of the guard in politics. What they're really afraid of is that we would do to them what they've done to us. That's the real fear. But if you ask, they'll say they haven't done anything. All while continuing to benefit from their wrongdoing. The fear is they're being eliminated and they're going into minority status. Now, I'm not talking about all white folks. I'm just talking about the ones who exercise this level of perceived superiority. The ones who think that they are actually better just because they're white. I'm not talking about the white folks that got sense. I'm not talking about the white folks that's normal, who have integrity, who tell the truth. I'm talking about the ones that want to, at all costs, keep their foot on the neck of anybody who doesn't look like them for some reason or another. Y'all remember when, this was a few years ago, when the South Africans, the black South Africans, kicked all the white folks off their stolen land and their farms that they took from them in the first place while destroying black folks' lives. Y'all remember what it looked like before apartheid, during apartheid, and all that, when all that craziness was going on, and they were putting dogs on people and beating people and just doing all manner of other stuff. See, People forget about that. It was terrorism. But these same people, as they were being kicked off the land, these white folks, Donald Trump had something to say about it. Oh, there's a whole other continent. And he's worried about the white folks over there and talking about what the black folks was doing. There was something wrong with it. Maybe you ought to check your history in the United States, bro. Just maybe. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. But that's him trying to protect the fallacy of white supremacy on a global scale. I remember when he said, why aren't we having any immigrants from places like Norway? You want to bring people from another country, it's okay as long as they look like you, but not like Mexicans, El Salvadorians, Guatemalans, or any of them, or Jamaicans, Haitians. You got a problem with them, but you don't have a problem with people coming from Norway. You didn't have a problem with your wives. Isn't that amazing? See, educating black people is probably the most dangerous thing for white America that could have ever happened. But even more so, educating black people about who they really are. That's why they despise Black History Month. This is why they hate when black folks get to talking about their accomplishments. This is why they don't teach in school the truth about who was, where, and when. They eliminate those black faces and those black folks from the history books because they don't want to say that without this black person, we wouldn't be right here right now. I don't need to go over that list again. Y'all have heard it all before. The Crispus Attucks of the world, the Lewis Latimers of the world. See, people think they want to give the credit for the light bulb all to one man, but they forget without Lewis Latimer, there is no light bulb. But we ain't going to talk about that, right? See, these are the things they leave out. I could go down a whole list for that. But if it ever came a time where black people truly realized and were taught who they were and their contributions to the building of this entire nation, that becomes very dangerous for the status quo. They can't have that because then black folks will really get uppity. They don't want that. No, no, no. Think about this. Remember when rap music hit the scene back in the 80s, in the early 80s? All the songs that you heard were either about who was the best MC or educating. They were talking about science. They were talking about history. They were talking about mathematics. See, think about that. And then suddenly, somewhere in there, see, after they realized that rap wasn't going nowhere, then they infiltrated. Like they have infiltrated everything historically black that was positive for black people to destroy it. The Black Panther Party. I watched a very good movie the other night. I don't remember the name of it, unfortunately, but it was about Billie Holiday. And they showed how the federal government, the FBI, that clown Hoover, all up in it. They didn't want her singing that jazz music. So they did everything in their power to destroy her. That same group of people destroyed so many black folks that were positive and making moves in America. It is unreal. I'd like to dig that dude up just so I could get at him for the things that he did to us as an entire people. They don't want no martyrs. They don't want no black folks to be seen as influential because they wanted to try to keep us down as far as possible. And that was just yet another way to do it. So they jumped in the rap game and turned it sour. Now you can barely understand what they're saying in the damn songs. We went from education, mathematics, history, to mumble music. That's exactly what they wanted. And we bid it. We bought it hook, line, and sinker. It used to be inspirational, motivational, and educational, and we let it get taken over. Bill Cosby's A Different World. Y'all remember that? And even The Cosby Show. That show single-handedly, I think, is responsible for thousands of black folks going to college because everybody wanted to experience what they saw on that show. Black kids realized there was a possibility that they could go to college. They saw themselves in those characters. All he did was depict on a mainstream network that it was possible. So see, there's two sides to propaganda. And when the propaganda is too good, there has to be something to offset it for those in power. Dehumanization is the number one tool of the oppressors. Taking a break, my Black Factor family, she says, we need not worry about them. What are black men prepared to do? Stop drinking, stop doing drugs, get educated, young black men. Stop raining on your communities. Stop the killing. You're killing your own soldiers. I wouldn't be surprised if they're listening to your podcast. The black code is still alive and well. Stop trying to convince these people of what they have done. We are in denial like a woman living with an abusive man and afraid to leave. Slavery is still alive and well. Willie Lynch's letter was correct. For generations to come, take care of your household. Some of you know the troublemakers in your family that terrorize the neighborhood. Peace. Stop blaming it all on some weak-ass slave owners. Taking a break, I agree with many of the things that you've said here. On the other hand, there are some points that I would like to share where I disagree. Part of it is that a lot of that ideology has levels of propaganda built into it. Yes, there are crimes being committed in the black community. Not that I'm using white folks as a measuring stick, but it also is committed in their community as well. We literally would have to go crime-free in order to make it appear that we are living like them, which is a farce, because at the end of the day, if you look at the real crime statistics, you'll see that the exact same things that go on in our communities, divided by the economic status of those communities, are exactly the same. There is no real difference. The only difference is that we get the black eye. We become the poster child for these activities because that's the way the media would have you believe. And I'm going to get to an area in this show that I'm going to explain why that is. And it's very important because I'm leading up to something. One of the things that bothers me, in this country, we are taking a break. You say I'm still comparing yourself to them. No, not really. I'm going to show you why. Give me a minute. Okay. One of the things that we do, we're expected to recite the Pledge of Allegiance and stand for the national anthem. But the Pledge of Allegiance says in the last sentence, with liberty and justice for all. It was written in 1892. And yet we're still fighting for those rights that, according to the Declaration of Independence, the part about all men being created equal, the life, the liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which was written on July 4th, 1776, when my people were still in chains and not even considered to be men. We were considered livestock. See, they can't teach you your history prior to slavery nor after slavery, because most times They don't know it, and they want to bury what they do know. There's something to know now. But if they do that, then they're going to lose the foothold they have on their violent uprising and control over people. The colonizers are going to lose their perceived power. Y'all heard me say this before. If we got up right now, if all black people got up right now and said, okay, we're leaving America, but when we leave, we're going to take everything that we created and brought with us when we go. I want y'all to know that this country would become a third world country damn near immediately. See, it all goes back to economics. Now, the question is, who created, for example, segregation? Why did they create segregation? Fear. They created segregation because it made them feel like they kept people corralled and stay in power, and to keep themselves seemingly better. Didn't matter whether you were or you weren't. They wanted to perceive that. Yet here we are continuing to get the title of us being the ones that are violent and hateful. This is what we're dealing with now, y'all. Now, here's where I'm going to get to the part we're taking a break. Talks about us comparing. Here's a very interesting thing that I ran across today. It's called paired associate learning. Y'all know what paired associate learning is? Okay. Well, here it is. There's a doctor. His name is Edward Robinson, and he is the gentleman who I heard say paired associate learning. And this is the premise. When you pair a group of people that you don't like with something else that you don't like, they become synonymous. When you pair things that you do like with a group of people that you do like, they then become synonymous. So in other words, if every time, and this taking a break is where I'm going, we say, stop drinking, stop killing each other, stop doing this or stop doing that. These are all things that we don't like. And they have been paired with black people, with the black community by default, through the media, through news, through movie shows, and the list goes on. See, paired associate learning. So we begin to attach or become attached to those things by default in the minds of anyone who has been presented this information in that format. So there's not a comparison between us and them. It is the way we are being perceived based on the information provided by those in power to provide the information. We don't have control over our image, which is a mistake, but we are getting better. Billie Holiday versus the United States was the name of the movie that I just mentioned a minute ago. One of the things in that movie, in fact, that whole movie I thought was brilliantly done. I am not a Lee Daniels fan, but he killed that. What I appreciate about the Lee Daniels and the Tyler Perrys of the world is that they have begun to take control of the black image in ways that we have not seen in our lifetime, on a constant scale, on a major scale. See, they are now beginning to associate other things with our community versus just stop drinking, stop smoking, stop killing each other, get educated, as though these things, see, in fact, we have been becoming educated, which is part of the reason for the fear in the first place. This is the reason why you have the rise of a Donald Trump. Donald Trump is nothing more than a mouthpiece for the way half of America really feels. It ain't Donald Trump. This is America. There's no comparison. There's only us operating in our what we've learned by association, and not understanding that until we remove ourselves from those associations by not even putting it on ourselves the way they have put it on us, then we're going to continue to struggle to remove it. You can't remove yourself from something unless you know you're in it. And the only way to know you're in that is to figure out how you became associated with that. I don't kill nobody. I don't drink and get drunk and do all of the things that she listed, that Taking a Break listed in that statement. So my point is that we can't automatically think that those things that have been associated to the black community are the things that are going to change the black community, because that's not what it is. See, when you ask the wrong questions, you will always inevitably get the wrong answers. This is where the twist comes in. We got to be careful, y'all. When you show these images to people, the subconscious mind absorbs these things. When you tell these things to people, the subconscious mind absorbs it, whether we like it or not. This is outside of our control, and including the minds of black people. Like the violence, the movies we watch, the shows that depict us in bad light. We have nothing to offset those things, and we've talked about that on this show at length. When you don't have something to offset the negativity, you think that negativity is by nature what we are, and that is what we are being, what the white community is bombarded with. So their fear increases, which allows a Donald Trump to say the things that he does, and they eat it up because that association. Learned association. The funny thing is, when we watch these white folks do the exact same things, just shows you that the paired associate learning teaches us, you may not realize it, that you don't then put an entire group of people in that bag. You say, oh, he was crazy. That dude was crazy. There's something wrong with him. Not white people off the chain. Unlike when black people do something, I can remember a time or two where I was somewhere and somebody black did something off the chain. I was the only other black person there, and they looking at me like I'm supposed to do something. I don't know that dude. But the association. Because in their mind, if one black person does something, that's why when you watch some of the old movies and you hear them make a statement to other black people from back in the day, oh, you could be a credit to your race. Really? That's that association. They connect you to the next one. They want to make it all about being black, not about that particular individual is crazy. Taking a Break says there are more churches and liquor stores in our communities. I agree. But the problem with that is, in my unpopular opinion, it goes back to when we were taught in slavery that our rewards were in heaven. That as long as we worked hard and did as we were told, when we died, we would be rewarded. Black folks still believe that. And equally as many black people use that church as a conduit for economics. See, it all goes back to money again. When you take an entire group of people and you segregate them into communities, which has been a thing throughout the history of America, you put them into a community, you take out as many resources as possible, and you have them fend for themselves, what do you think is going to happen? If we had the power, which we do not, to take white folks and redline them, stick them in their own communities, in their own ghettos, make them live amongst themselves, not because they choose to, but because they had to, take away the jobs, take away the opportunities, and watch what happens. It'll be no different. See, this is how all of this is done. It creates an economic base so that the crime bills get passed, which is another way to enslave black folks. It's another way to economically keep them starved while building tax bases in other ways, while building high interest credit organizations, putting currency exchanges and things like that in neighborhoods, more churches. So now all of a sudden everybody is, oh my God, oh Lord, I got to pray about it. Let's build another church. Well, I don't like what Pastor something's talking about. I'm going to build a church over here. I'm going to open up me a storefront. Well, I ain't going to church. I'm going to the liquor store. Somebody build another liquor store. See? And then the liquor stores don't be black owned. Economics. It all goes back to economics. Don't even get me started about that treadmill. Now, here's the thing. This paired associate learning also means that the last election, I'm going to show you how crazy this is. If you use the ideology of paired associate learning, you realize that in our last election, it was only contested in states where the predominant vote counts came out of black majority cities. I want y'all to think about that. Michigan, you got Detroit. Pennsylvania, you got Philly. Wisconsin, you got Milwaukee. And the list goes on. Georgia, you got Atlanta. All predominantly black cities. Leaning mostly Democrat. Now, explain to me why no one complained about any other cities that they lost except the ones where it was predominantly black. See, you can't. The idea here is to attach, this is the paired associate learning, attach the idea of theft of the election, of voter fraud, of wrongdoing, of cheating with what? Black people. Paired associate learning. The subconscious in the minds of white folks across America is that black people should not be able to vote because they will cheat. See how that works? Now, they've yet to prove that there's been any cheating or any foul play whatsoever. But it doesn't matter because they tell them what they want to hear. They lie to them, feed them lies, and then say, we won, but them black folks. So here's what's happening. Now they are working overtime to come up with new voter laws across the country. In other words, Voter suppression is about to take a whole new level that y'all ain't even going to even see coming. This is where the problem is about to begin. The problem's already done started, actually. By the time this whole thing takes hold, it's going to be too late. Paired associate learning. Who do they try to oppress and keep from voting the most? Black folks. This has been since the end of slavery. The first time black folks got the right to vote, it worked fine through the end of Reconstruction. Once they tore down Reconstruction, black folks, you had the right to vote, but you better not vote. They'll burn your house down. They'll burn down the church. Don't even think about going and registering people for voters. You'll end up dead. Like Schwerner and Cheney and the other young man, I can't think of his name, in Mississippi, all the way up into the 60s. They was killing folks, black folks who wanted to vote. You think this ain't getting ready to turn back around? This is where we headed. Paired associate learning. By them, see, this is the propaganda campaign, just like with Hitler. Before they began to exterminate the Jews, they took their time and dehumanized them, made them look like some sort of greedy animals. So by the time they started taking them out, people was okay with it. Like, yeah, well, they kind of had it coming. They kind of deserved it. Why? Simply because he said so. Simply because he planted those seeds early and watered them. And he reaped what he sowed in the form of death of Jewish people. Dehumanization started early. He did what he had to do, and he got it done. We are witnessing this again through fear tactics and paired associate learning. Because you get this, you attach bad elections, cheating, voter fraud to major cities where black people are concerned. If y'all think this is a joke, you better wake up. They still haven't proved that there was any foul play. But they have attached the stench of a liar to black people's lives. They've done a very good job at that. And it's only going to get worse. There has to be some pushback. Otherwise, y'all might as well get ready. Because it's coming. And this is a historical fact. Dennis McCullum says, how can they suppress without harming themselves? They can't, Dennis, unless they straight out say just blacks can't vote, full stop. Oh, no, you're absolutely right. Y'all heard me say it before. My mom always said, when you dig one hole, you better dig two. See, but that's the short-sightedness that they operate in. It always comes back to haunt them every single time. And it's going to again. This is not new. But in the meantime, we have to be concerned about the casualties that we're going to suffer because of it. This is why we must be proactive and not reactive. Dr. Robinson mentioned something else, though, that I found deeply profound. And it never occurred to me. But it just shows you again how that paired associate learning works. He talked about the color purple. And he stated that first, his disclaimer was he didn't believe for 1 second that Steven Spielberg intended or realized to do what he did. Now, if you pay attention to that movie, and again, he pointed this out and it never occurred to me, but it just shows you. In that movie, the darker men, it seemed like the darker they were, the more of a tyrant, the more of a piece of crap they were. You think about it. Celie's father, little old dark man, he had two daughters, both of which I guess he had been with, and he was kind of a womanizer. He wasn't, much of a man. He basically sold his daughter to the next man, who was also dark and a tyrant. But then you had the woman Suge, whose man seemed to be very easygoing and a gentleman, very polite. So the depiction became the lighter the men in the movie, the more mellow they were. The darker the men, the more dangerous and the more you hated them. See, that's paired associate learning. You attach those ignorant behaviors to the darker complected individuals in that movie. Now that's just an example, just to show you what I mean. The message of color being attached to particular behaviors. Just like the voter suppression that's coming. You know what, another thing, I find it interesting that not one Republican complained about any of the races that they won where Donald Trump lost. They talk about voter fraud and how he won the election. So how is it that they won if there was so much cheating going on? Propaganda. It's a propaganda campaign. Propaganda campaign. Y'all are witnessing what I will refer to as the long con. This is what we're seeing. They are working up to something else. There's something else coming. So you might as well get ready. You might as well be paying attention. Keep your eyes open. Stay woke, as they say, because there is something else coming. This is only a growing and festering excuse to take your vote away. They're working on it. It's coming. This history of this country is riddled with excuses and reasons to eliminate black votes at any and all costs, not limited to and including murder, lynching, burning, destroying, taking. They've done it all. They intend to take away your voting rights as fast as they can. Stay woke, y'all. You want to know why they continue to support Trump? This is why. He allows them to be able to put you back in your place. This is where we're headed. Although, I will say this. I am somewhat optimistic that the younger generations are getting away from what is. I'm happy that they're getting away from what is. The only problem is that I hope that before they get a foothold, that this hatred doesn't get a foothold first and push back everything that has been done. I'm ready for the future. I'm ready for our children to take over the future and be the future and be it in ways that eliminate and remove all of the hatred and all of the isms and all of the BS that we've faced and had to deal with in this country to date. I ain't saying anything is going to be perfect, but I am saying that honesty and integrity, truth, and reality need to be the order of the day, not the opposite. Not bullies going around calling other people a bully. Stay woke, y'all. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in tonight. Do not forget to get your copy of The Black Factor, available at my website, bmforbes.com. I hope to have a special show on Wednesday, so look forward to that. And I want to thank everybody. I'm not going to drag this out anymore because, like I told y'all, I'm feeling some kind of way. These shows, they work on me. They work on me a lot. I'm very tired. But I want you all to have a wonderful evening. Thank each and every one of you for coming and hanging out with me tonight. I appreciate y'all. Y'all make me want to do this. You make me want to bring the information and add perspective, because that's what we do at the Black Factor. Perspective is everything. I've been your host, Brian Forbes. Y'all enjoy your night. Give somebody a hug and be prepared to get on this campaign trail and start getting things ready so we can make a difference. Not when it's too late, but before it becomes too late. We out of here, y'all. Love, peace, and chicken grease.